Happy Monday, everyone, and welcome to the fourth episode of More to Explore, where we like to keep you updated with everything happening on the largest live nature network. My name is Brian Byrd, and I'll be your technical director today, pushing all the buttons behind the scenes. And to teach us about the wildlife we see today is our resident naturalist, Mike Fitz. Thanks for being here today, Mike.
Hey, good afternoon here from where I am in Maine. And we're happy to have everybody along. I'm happy to be here. For those of you who are new to explore.org, welcome to the community. And for our regular watchers, thanks for being here once again. Explore is the world's largest live nature cam network. We have more than 180 live cameras all over the world. Right now, we're looking at the University of Alaska Fairbanks Northern Lights cam. This is a highlight from, I think, just a few days ago. And this is real time, Brian, as I understand it, watching the Aurora dance. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's usually a little slower than this, and usually have to make a little kind of a time lapse clip to see it moving this fast. But this is real time.
Yeah, this is remarkably beautiful, and this camera is located at the University of Alaska Fairbanks Robert G. White Large Animal Research Station. We have cameras here that focus also on captive muskox and caribou, or reindeer, I should say, excuse me. But this camera focuses primarily on the northern lights. And the aurora, I think, is the most conspicuous example of space weather that we can experience on Earth, but it's not necessarily one that's accessible to all of us. Even where I live in northern Maine, it's often very cloudy if the aurora is out, and sometimes you just want to sleep instead of being up in the middle of the night. But you can look at highlights on the cameras, and you can just tune in maybe from the warmth of your own home instead of standing out in minus 30-degree weather to enjoy this. So yeah, really a remarkable sighting overall. And during our show today, too, Brian, I should mention that we are going to look for some audience questions. So if anybody has any about the highlights that we're going to talk about, please drop those in the comments, and we'll try to get to a few of those during the broadcast today. So we're starting with the Northern Lights camera, Brian, but we're also staying in the northern regions of North America for our first clip.
Yeah, starting our tour today, we're coming from Alaska all the way to the west side of the Hudson Bay in Manitoba, Canada. The Polar Bears International Cape West Cam, where we got a rare visit from a Gyrfalcon. What can you tell us about it, Mike?
Yeah, this is a really a gorgeous looking bird. It's not one that I don't think I've ever seen in person, despite living in Alaska for a few years in the breeding range of this bird. I don't know if I ever saw one or not. They are circumpolar in their distribution, so you'll find them in Alaska and northern Canada, and then in parts of northern Europe, and of course across Asia back to Alaska. They're a regular but uncommon winter visitor to areas near the U.S. Canada border. So maybe you'll have the opportunity to see it if you live in that region during the wintertime. But it's not a bird that we have the opportunity to see that often unless you're living in their normal nesting territory. They are the world's largest falcon, though. So females are bigger than males, and they may weigh close to 2 kilograms. Their food is primarily rock ptarmigan, and they utilize other bird nests for their own. So they're not necessarily making their own nests, but they're kind of just finding an abandoned nest somewhere and deciding, hey, this is good enough for me, and I want to utilize this. Oh, when I was reading about the the Gyrfalcons today, I learned, and this is according to Birds of the World online, there's little documentation of Gyrfalcon's self-maintenance behaviors like preening and bathing. So a sighting like this could give us an opportunity to see relatively ordinary behaviors from the bird's perspective that people just haven't had that much of a chance to observe or at least document in the scientific literature. So yeah, just a really cool sighting uh, overall. We got to watch this bird for a good 40 minutes on the Cape West Cam in Wapusk National Park. Really regal looking species. And we'll go to another regal looking species here in just a moment, Brian, but this one has a different story to tell. I don't think it's the most handsome example of a bald eagle that we've seen.
It's definitely something I've never seen before. So we're coming off to the coast of Maine to Seal Island for Project Puffin's Gray Seal Cam, where we see this eagle seems to have a broken beak.
Yeah, it was. I was alerted to this by a webcam watcher, Sergeant Pepper, who frequently captures, some really great screenshots. So yeah, looking at this bird, it obviously has its the upper part of its bill damaged, and it could have been damaged in a few different ways. But it seems like maybe the most probable reason that it happened is that it just got in a fight with another eagle. It got its bill caught in the talons of another bird, and that's how it got damaged. uh, Project Puffin, which is one of the partners for our webcams out on Seal Island and Audubon Society and their other partners, probably the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, they all talk to one another as far as I understand it. And they decided it's not feasible to intervene to help this bird because the logistics of it would be too difficult. Seal Island is not close to the necessarily to the mainland of Maine, so it's about 20 miles, 20-mile boat ride out to sea. It's from Rockland, Maine, at least. Uh, there's no really safe place to moor a boat when you're out there. There's the winter weather can be really, really rough, and also the bird seems to be flying well. So this isn't the first time or the only time that we've seen it on camera. In fact, it's been seen by sharp-eyed viewers on the cam in January and February. So the eagle has survived with the injury, and if it's able to fly normally, then capturing the bird for any sort of rehab would be much more difficult. So I think for those reasons, that's the reason why the partners decided, hey, you know what, it's just not feasible to try to capture this bird. We're going to let it have a fighting chance out in the wild. So, Brian, we're going to take a break from birds for our next clip here. So, but we're going from one bird who is a survivor to a different species who's also a great survivor, just on a different continent.
Yeah. And one of the great things about Explorador is that you can travel the world in quite literally seconds. So we're going to take a quick detour all the way to South Africa, where we're going to see Monty the python. If you're familiar with the Wild Moment show, you've seen this python before, and we're going to see the very skilled hunter as he catches two different birds on two different occasions.
I love how the snake is using its camouflage so well. When we watch snakes, and I think a lot of times, and I was thinking about this today too, people want to deny that they have like a sentience and an awareness of their bodies, but this snake clearly does when it's on this log. It's positioning itself in the perfect way to camouflage itself. So the camouflage is there, the awareness of its body is there. Really, it just needs to wait for its prey to show up. And we have different clips of the snake. Some are successful in its hunts, and sometimes the grabs just don't quite land.
Yeah, so
And I
let's take a
think
look at this first one. First one here is definitely is a miss. You see how quick it really is. Just catches those tail feathers right there, but doesn't quite get the bird. And we have our second one here where it does make a successful catch right here. And I think this one, it almost seems like the bird lands right on the python.
yeah, that's what it looks like to me. And I have watched this clip many, many times, and in real time, I can't see the strike. Like it's just too quick for my eye. So when we slow it down like this, Brian, which you're doing, I think this is great. You get this slow motion example with the bird. I think it's a dove lands on the snake, and it's almost instantaneous. Like the snake had seen it coming, knew what it had to do in that situation. So I think this is just a remarkable example of athleticism. Uh,
Yeah. And
in this animal itself. Just like the sheer quickness of it to me is just amazing.
and our last clip of the python here, I love this one because you can see it almost like super aware of its surroundings. You see its head coming back, almost getting ready for it right there.
It must have seen the bird coming in at a distance, and it was just anticipating the bird landing in one place or another. But yeah, just remarkable quickness in this animal. And I do find snakes, I consider them to be athletes in their own ways, and especially like the quickness that this snake demonstrates. Uh, it's just a great example of athleticism in animals. Again, snakes. I love snakes. I could talk about snakes all day. I wish I had more snakes in my yard. When I see a snake when I go outside, it's like the highlight of my day. So are wonderful animals. They are far too maligned, and I think we need to give them more respect than we have historically given them, at least in in my culture. So yeah, remarkable animal overall, an athlete in its own ways. And all animals are athletes, and they display their abilities just in different ways. We'll head back to birds now, Brian, as I understand it, and we're looking at an athlete in, I guess, a long distance migration.
Yes, coming back from our detour, back to Nebraska at the Rose Sanctuary, where we have our crane cam.
This is just I think one of the prettiest views that you can find on explore.org, the morning and evening crane flights over the Platte River. This is part of one of the world's great migrations. Several 100,000 sandhill cranes use the Platte River in Nebraska during their spring migration. And the webcams, or the webcam that we have, watches over a stretch of river that is particularly dense with cranes. So the stretch of river is so attractive to the birds because it's wide and shallow. So it allows birds to roost there overnight, and they can spot danger from afar. And it gives them easy access to nearby farmland where they can forage for waste grain in agricultural fields. March is prime time for this spectacle, so it's not over yet. Definitely tune in at dawn and dusk. That's Central Time, I believe, in Nebraska, to watch the cranes take off and just to listen. Brian, I don't know if we have the sound available for this clip or not, but it is super loud, even through the speakers of your computer. It's amazing.
Uh, I do have the sound real quick. I do need to turn it down because it is loud. It's probably about half volume right now.
Yeah, it must be. I've never seen this in person, but it must be almost deafening in person. I hope to see it maybe one day, but I think I'm going to plan to bring some earplugs along with me. Sandhill cranes, they establish nesting territories 2 to 4 weeks prior to building a nest, and these birds are going to keep heading north before they establish a nesting territory. And raising young birds is often an extremely taxing endeavor, which is why holding a good territory is so important. Our next highlight in the story of the male bird there provides, I think, a good example of that.
Yeah, we're heading to La Crescent, Minnesota, where our partner's Raptor Resource Project has stationed a peregrine falcon nest box off the side of a cliff here. And we can see resident Newman, who now has his new mate, Savannah.
Yeah, Newman, he's held this territory since 2016, and he's had a different. This year, he has a different mate from last year. So her fate is unknown from last year, but the current partner of Newman is Savannah, nicknamed Savannah. This is a third female on this territory with Newman since 2016. Peregrines pair with the same birds, or can pair with the same birds for many years, but they'll divorce, or something else could happen to one of the partners that causes the surviving partner or the remaining partner to hook up with another bird. Uh, I think security is such an important factor for birds trying to protect their vulnerable young, and it's maybe not necessarily the fact that Newman's at this territory that's attracting females. It's maybe just like that he has great territory. So that's what I think is maybe allowing him to find different partners. It's not necessarily him per se, and I could be wrong about this. I'm not necessarily an expert in peregrine falcon behavior or motivations, but I think it's maybe the fact that he just holds great territory. So if his female partner disappears, then hey, he just kind of has to hang out and wait for another female to show up and check out that territory. But yeah, it's a secure location for their eggs primarily, except for insects. I mean, they sometimes the young will experience a lot of biting insects, but otherwise it's on the edge of a cliff. Although there's a raccoon that likes to investigate the area from time to time, we've seen on the webcams. But overall, it's a secure spot. And peregrines, they nest in places that are inaccessible to most other animals. And that's, but they're not the only birds that do that. And surprisingly, sometimes you'll see some Canada geese. It's pretty high up spots.
Yeah. Coming all, uh, excuse me, over to Decorah, Iowa, we have our now Decorah goose nest. What was previously seen on the Decorah eagle's nest now has its own stream of that N2B nest where we have seen now the geese starting to lay eggs.
Yeah, this nest is in an abandoned eagle nest, so it's high up in a cottonwood tree. It's about 700 feet from an active eagle nest that we have at camera on, and this is a that was just a tremendous view of the goose laying. It looks like maybe her first egg there. There currently are 3 eggs in the nest. And Mother Goose is incubating. I think this is one of Charlie's clips that he pulled from just maybe yesterday or the day before uh, of those 3 eggs. And she's incubating the eggs, and we can I think expect them to hatch during the last week of April. We saw a pair of geese on this nest last year. We don't know if it's the same pair, but the behavior demonstrates no matter what, whether it's the same pair or not, sort of like the nesting adaptability in this species. They'll do it right next to a pond if they want to, right on the shoreline. But yet, hey, up in a tree, that's not out of the realm of possibility for these geese. And our last clip, our last highlight that we're going to today, Brian, is over to another very secure nest site.
Yeah, these nests are very high up. So we're going to the eastern shores of Maryland, where with our partner Chesapeake Conservancy to the Great Blue Heron Cam.
Great blue herons nest in rookeries, so you'll often find several nests in close proximity to one another. It's unknown how many eggs are in this nest due to the perspective. When the camera was installed, the tree wasn't as tall, and it's grown since then, so the nest is a little bit higher than it was in the past. But when I see the birds on this camera, when I see blue herons on this camera, it offers me like a different perspective on their behavior, because when I see them in person, most often they're hunting in shallow water, they're utilizing their patience and their quickness and their skills to stalk small animals. But raising young, also requires a great deal of patience and skills. And we're just kind of seeing the birds utilizing those aspects of their lives in a different way up in the nest. So I think we have, at least a good few months of blue heron watching to look forward to on these cameras.
Definitely. And that does conclude today's tour for last week's highlights. And every week we like to have a photo contest called Fan Cam Friday. So now we'd like to take a moment to recognize this week's winners. Congratulations to this week's winners. If you would like to participate in Fan Cam Friday, all you need to do is take a snapshot by clicking the camera icon above any live cam and then save it to the gallery. be sure to help us find future winners by favoriting snapshots. All right. Thanks again to everyone who's been taking snapshots and participating in Fan Cam Friday. We do have a few comments here uh, in the YouTube chat. Say Terry C, good morning. Kuma Kuma, hello, good morning. Shout out to Amanda. Thanks for joining us. And we do have a question in the queue here, Mike.
Yeah, we do. This person writes in, good morning. I love all the Explore live cams. When and how did it all begin? Who started Explore? As for the when, I don't know, Brian. I know Explore.org has been around for more than a decade, and I know it's really the brainchild of our founder, Charlie Annenberg Weingarten. So he has many documentary films on Explore.org that we can watch. And right now, I think more than documentary films, our focus is on providing people with the opportunities to watch live nature and animals around the world. So yeah, thanks to Charlie Annenberg for his his vision in allowing this phenomenon to happen.
Definitely. Could always thank Charlie. All of the live cams are free for everybody to experience nature, really a window into wildlife. And I'm grateful every day to be able to see them right from the comfort of my home, including this beautiful shot again of the Northern Lights. And that brings us to coming up this next week. We have some other live programming. On Tuesday, we have the AFCAM show if you feel like going on a virtual live safari. And on Thursday, we have our Wild Moment show, which brings you all the best highlights from all of the clips from the Africam cams. And then, Mike, just last Wednesday, we had a live chat talking about the Grace Gorillas that the replay is still available for.
Yeah, that was a really fun live chat to be a part of. We talked to representatives from Grace about animal care with their gorilla group that they're hoping to rewild in the future. We took some audience questions that were very insightful. So yeah, check that out if you have the time and the opportunity. Really a wonderful organization to partner with. And the Grace Gorilla Cam is one of my favorite cameras on Explore.org. This week, though, Brian, I think maybe we always like to talk about the cams that we want to watch this, and of course, I'll be looking at the gorillas from time to time, but also I think I would be paying particular attention to the sandhill cranes at the Rose Sanctuary because we're kind of coming up on the end of that migration season. So that's the camera. I think one of the cameras to watch this week. What are you looking for, Brian?
Definitely. This week, I've been watching the new sloth playground cam, just watching these adorable sloths build up their climbing skills. You see one here looks like doing a little pull up. You see many little sloths on the obstacle course. And then one clip we actually got was giving one of the caretakers some very fashionable boots.
And these, with Toucan Rescue Ranch, these sloths are being rehabilitated or raised to a point where they can be released into the wild again. So, really great work that they do in Costa Rica at the Toucan Rescue Ranch.
And if you're not already following us on social media, here's where you can find us on all of the popular platforms. And on YouTube, you can see our latest video, Mike, that you narrated about the power of nature.
Yeah, that video talks about uh, some of the more intense events that we have seen on some of our live nature camps, such as earthquakes, wildfire, and hurricanes.
And besides subscribing to our social channels, Mike, how can somebody get even more involved?
We have an army of volunteers that help us at Explore.org, and I'd like to thank all of our volunteer moderators and camera operators who give us the amazing views on Explore.org. If you want to be a volunteer for us, either as a camera operator or a moderator, go to explore.org/volunteer. You can fill out this form and we'll get back to you with more information. We really couldn't do it without our volunteers. So thanks to them each and every day for all the hard work that they do to make the website a success.
Definitely. And that brings us to our end of our show today. We'll leave you here in Fairbanks, Alaska, looking at the rest of this clip of the beautiful Northern Lights. And again, I would like to give a special thank you to all of the moderators, camera operators, and of course, Mike Fitz. And we'll see you again next week on More to Explore. And until then, happy exploring.